Hello, this is Jess here, the Holistic Frugivore. So, I was debating whether to do this video and how to even go about doing it. Because there's some things about our consciousness and other beings, things that are just kind of coming in as like knowings, things that I have heard and looked into and come to understand. But it's a really hard concept to explain. So I think I'm going to attempt to explain it just for the sake of some clarification, I suppose. Um, so when we speak about the elites, I think most people who have looked into the elites and who they are well aware of who those people are. If you aren't aware of it, we're talking about people like George Soros, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, even the royal family, and other families as well. Those are just the names that come to my mind. Those are kind of considered these elite groups that are pretty much controlling the world and controlling how our governments function, and they're pretty much the ones who own everything. The financial elites, the upper top percent. So if you've dabbled in the conspiracy concepts of things, you've probably come upon reptilians as we explore other beings, and reptilians are often mentioned and gone into as far as alien species. So whether or not you've looked into like the alien species or not, this is going to kind of jump off of that. So let's start by saying everything is energy. So absolutely everything around us, everything you see, everything that you feel, just everything at its very core is an energy wave. Okay? So when we look at our brain, it's often broken down into three sections. What's it called? The mammal brain, the reptilian brain, and then I'm trying to remember the other one. It's the thought source. Like the intrinsic brain, something. I'd have to, but anyways, it's broken down into three aspects. I'm going to post more about this on my Instagram too. So go there for more information. But on that aspect. But the main thing I want to talk about is the reptilian brain. So when it comes to like our physical body, we often break things down into little aspects. Like it always has to be a very like physical showing. Like here's the brain, here's the reptilian brain, and here's the mammal brain. Like everything's very broken down and labeled. But when you step back into the concept of everything being energy, it's not that simple of it being broken down into just this is where this is, and this is where this is, and this is where it's all interconnected. And for the sake of the physical form, you can look at it like in a 3D aspect of the specific locations of what they are. But in the grander scheme of consciousness and our energetic body, it's much more interconnected than that. I mean, everything functions together. So in regards to the brain, it's not necessarily broken down as simply as just three aspects of the brain. So what I'm trying to explain is when we see these elites, they are being controlled by the reptilian brain, the reptilian consciousness. So basically, the reptilian brain is the fight or flight aspect, the survival aspect of our brain. So the very lower consciousness level of our human self. So as we evolve, we can evolve out of that, but it's the very low vibration of our physical selves and our consciousness. So when we continue to function at that very low vibration in the state of the reptilian brain, your fight or flight instincts and survival, and whether it be resist healing to elevate consciousness and just kind of resist that process, you become more susceptible to being taken over by the reptilian consciousness. Basically, it's a form of possession to where the logical, empathetic, compassionate human aspects get pushed down and taken over by this reptilian consciousness. And these are kind of these evil that we see in the world. They aren't, we often think like, you can't fathom doing things that some of these people do. And it's because they're not functioning at this higher level of human consciousness of, more love and compassion and empathy. They are at a very low level consciousness being run by the reptilian brain, reptilian consciousness. Whether there is a physical form we can identify as a physical being that is a reptilian, I'm not sure yet. I've been dabbling in these consciousnesses and alien interdimensional beings and what they really are. And I've come to understand all of it is a level of consciousness and being that all comes from the source. We are all fractals of that source. Alien, human, animal, whatever. We're all a fractal of that source. So our manifestation in this physical form is actually a lower vibration than some of these other higher vibrational beings, say in like a 11, 12 dimension. They don't sit in a physical form like we do. It's a very, not just lower consciousness, but it's like a very special experiment of the human. So reptilian consciousness is in 4D, if that makes sense. We're trying to kind of rise up to a higher consciousness above that. Many humans function in a level of kind of a 3D to 3D consciousness. These reptilian consciousness is about a 4D. So technically they are a higher consciousness just because they are able to possess a human form. And we are working to evolve above that. We're transforming into a higher consciousness going into 5D. If that may, trying to explain it in the most basic form. But ultimately, that is what we're seeing in terms of these darknesses we're seeing coming up in the world right now, is this revealing of this kind of 4D consciousness, so that we can alchemize into light and evolve into a higher consciousness in 5D. So when we talk about these elite people, I think that they are kind of this possession of reptilian consciousness, which causes them to behave in a very selfish and narcissistic manner, kind of void of compassion and empathy of the human. And I think that next year we're going to see a lot of revelations from those groups, and ultimately them being hopefully removed at a certain point. And that's part of this huge shift we're going to see financially, politically, spiritually, in every aspect of our lives. And I think one of them is very resistant to giving up his power. And I think that person is George Soros. And he has been connected to this corruption of Black Lives Matter movements and many other things that he uses to manipulate and control consciousness and humans. So I that's the best way I can go about trying to explain that. And I might be able to get deeper into it at some point as I work to make sense of it all myself. This is all things that are coming to my awareness now. And I'm trying to make sense of it all as well. So I thought that I would come to explain that a little bit, since there's so much more discussion of these elite people. And aliens and ETs, I think, are going to be coming up a lot more as well. Do not fear. I think there's going to be a created perceived fear of danger from ETs, but I don't think that it's actually aliens in the sense of what we think of them. It's going to be a fear propaganda and a very shadowed disclosure, disclosing aliens and ETs and UFOs in a way to create fear and a perceived war or a perceived danger. So that's something we should be careful of going into the next few months and next year. Many of these beings' consciousnesses are trying to be of guidance to us. Some are aspects of ourselves. As we open our awareness and work to elevate our consciousness and vibration, we'll start to have contact of these higher beings, many of which will come as like a spirit guide or some sort of guidance for you. And some are aspects of yourself in the future or in the past or whatever. And some are individual beings. So it's a lot to dive into, and it's a lot to try to make sense of. So that is the best I'm going to explain it right now. I just wanted to dip our toes into this, as I think disclosure is going to be a much greater situation in the coming months and years. So I hope that all makes sense. Message me if you have more questions about stuff. I'm hoping to make more videos on this topic as it makes sense to me and as it comes to my awareness. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time.